This is Twit.
eBay got hacked. That's right. The company posted a statement urging users to change their passwords, saying that the attackers, quote, compromised a database containing encrypted passwords and other non-financial data, unquote. Eric Hesseldahl is a senior editor for Recode, specializing in enterprise computing and also security, and he joins us right now. Welcome, Eric.
Hey, guys. How you doing?
So what kind of information did the hackers steal?
Well, one thing we know is that they were able to penetrate the eBay internal corporate network, and they did that by way of using stolen employee credentials. So we'll start there. What we understand is that the database that they compromised included encrypted passwords, physical address, email address, but no financial information.
I see. So both consumer and customer information and also employee information. Does that information taken from the employees enable them to sort of own the network and get other information not disclosed, do you think?
Yeah, that's, I think, what the analysis has shown is that they were able to root around to a certain extent within the network, but they weren't able, for instance, they weren't able to get over to, say, the PayPal network. So none of the financial information stored in PayPal seems to have been affected. They also weren't able to do any improper behavior, like, list something incorrectly or fake, do any fake auction listings on behalf of people's accounts they might have penetrated. Nothing like that yet.
They weren't unable to post photos that had a reflection of the naked seller in the background or anything.
Right.
We don't. You don't want that on eBay.
No information yet that we know of.
All right. Cool. Well, so when did this attack happen? Is this a recent event?
Late February, early March, and apparently it was only discovered about 2 weeks ago. So there's usually a bit of a disconnect between when something like this is discovered and when it's disclosed. And so now eBay says that it's working with law enforcement. I presume that means the FBI. So we'll see maybe more about this as it comes along, as more information. Eventually, there's usually a tick-tock in these things about who knew what when and how the attack was carried out. My guess is it was probably a spear phishing attack, something like an email attachment or something like that, that tricked an employee into clicking on something. That's usually the way these things happen.
It seems to me that eBay may not have wanted to disclose this right away. There was a weird, like, dribbling out and a sort of accidental disclosure before the actual disclosure. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I don't know very much about that, but what I do know is that there was very briefly like a statement with some placeholder text. It might have been just published too early. Somebody probably pushed the wrong button on the publishing system or something like that. That sort of thing happens. I'm not putting too much credence or importance on that. It looks to me like human error. Somebody saw something before it was intended to be out there, because it was only a matter of hours between the difference between when that first statement was seen and when the full statement came.
There seems to be a pandemic of that sort of activity. It sounds to me like they intended to post one thing, but pasted something and they had the wrong thing in their clipboard. And a similar thing happened to an employee of the Associated Press yesterday. They meant to paste in the remainder of a photo caption, but actually they pasted in the cover letter that they had sent to BuzzFeed in trying to get a job. And that went out and was published internationally. And of course, the Associated Press is famous for that sort of thing. Years and years ago, when they had before the web existed, I believe it was Linda Ellerby sent a passionate love letter out over the wire service to every reporter in the world, basically.
That reminds me of the time. That reminds me of the time that Bloomberg News, well before when Steve Jobs was still very much alive, published a file obituary. Before, years before he was actually seriously ill and died. They were just updating their file in the event that he might have died, and it was published all for about, I don't know, maybe 60 seconds or something like that. But on the Bloomberg terminal, that's an eternity, and they had to walk it back.
And nowadays, that sort of thing is crowdsourced on Twitter. Go ahead, Seth Figerman.
Did the AP reporter get a BuzzFeed interview after it went up, or has he been hired yet?
You know they will. BuzzFeed is just that kind of company. I mean, they're going to hear about it, and they're going to hire them probably. So they're certainly not going to work for AP anymore. So hopefully they've got the job now. Now, Seth Figerman, we see stories like this all the time. Things getting hacked. You always hear about it way after it's when it's too late to do anything about it. How do you manage your passwords and things like that? Do you use a password manager? What do you do to prevent your, your personal information from getting stolen and used?
So unfortunately, I do not practice what I preach. I would preach that people use services like LastPass and Dashlane and things that kind of randomize your passwords. For me, I sort of have I shouldn't even say this on air, but I have one kind of core part of my password, and then I tweak it for different services, the first couple letters, the last couple letters. But I am not particularly password savvy myself. I just hope that I'm too low profile for anyone to care about. I have no money, so no one should ever want to hack me.
That's very bad advice, Seth. Very, very bad.
Oh, I know. That's why I will never write that story.
Eric Hesseldahl, what's the good advice?
Well, the good advice is, interesting that Seth should mention Dashlane. I got an email from Dashlane. I think they're going to be running a special specifically keyed to this eBay. This is like, perfect opportunity for password manager products like Dashlane. I happen to use 1Password. And so I use it across multiple devices. They have an interesting feature where you can upload your key file to Dropbox or iCloud or something like that, and keep it in sync. So I have it across two Macs, iPhone, iPad. If I were to work another device in there, if I wanted to, I could. So all your passwords, you change it on one, it's updated on the other, so it stays in sync, and it allows you to generate very complicated passwords that you would never be able to remember. They can be 16, 20 characters with all sorts of numbers and symbols and that sort of thing. And that's what you want. That's good password hygiene. It's very easy. It sounds a little more complicated than it actually is to set up. Very easy to use in practice.
Well, Eric Hesseldahl, I want to thank you for coming on Tech News Today and telling us about the eBay hack. Really appreciate it.
You bet.
All right, you can find Eric Hesseldahl at recode.net, of course, and also on Twitter at AHESS247.